So we're going to fold the chevron pleated fold out of a square of paper. You don't have to have a square. It's not necessary. But I'm going to use a square because that's what I have. And this is fairly light paper, but you can also use copy paper. It works really well for this model. So you don't have to have anything special. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide this square up into 8 equal size strips. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to fold it in half first. And then we're going to fold each half in half. That will make quarters. Notice I'm being fairly careful to make the folds even, match up to the edges, and also to match these edges over here, which will guarantee that my strips have parallel edges. So you don't have to be completely compulsive, but it's nice if they're fairly neat. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to turn this over and do the other folds from this side because I want to be able to fan fold my paper back and forth. So if I do it from this side to start with, I won't have to reverse any pleats. So there's one. I've divided the space between the edge and the first mountain fold here. Mountain because it sticks up like a mountain. And then I'm going to take this mountain and bring it over to the next one. And that will divide the space in between in half. Then I'm going to take this mountain and bring it to the following one. And I should say, if your light isn't good or you can't see this edge matched up to that mountain fold, you can fold it back on the mountain fold, and then just sometimes it's easier to see to match up the two edges. And then I'm going to turn the paper around, take this raw edge, and fold it up to the mountain fold here. This model is, I don't want to encourage you to be sloppy, but this model is a little bit forgiving, meaning if you don't do it perfectly, it's still going to look really nice. Okay. So now we've already compressed the paper into 1/8 of its width, just like that. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is make a series of parallel folds across the whole paper, equally spaced and at a particular angle. So I'm going to start by taking this small edge and matching it up to this one by pivoting it at this corner. Up to there, pivot it at the corner, and you can already see on my paper that there are a lot of layers. I like to fold using my fingernails. Some people like to fold using a tool, which is called a folding bone. So it's just a not too sharp piece of bone or plastic that can help you fold this crease nicely. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to turn this around because I like to work with my paper always in the same orientation. I'm going to take this edge and fold it along here. So I'm going to pivot it up. Now I'm going to show you something. You can almost see the crease that's starting to form. You do not want to fold it down like that. See how that gives me like a little tent-shaped object? You don't want the tent. You want it to go the other way. This is the way you get parallel folds. I'm just going to undo this for a second to show you. There's a fold here, a fold here. They're parallel. And they're going to keep going along here. So each time I'm going to turn my strip of paper over, and then I'm going to take this bottom edge and bring it along here. That is the edge facing me. And I want it to pivot and be nice and tight right up against this last edge. And when I get done, it's going to look like a little wound up strip of paper. Okay, so I've done that, and I'm going to turn it over. Sometimes I like to unfold the last ones that I don't need anymore, just so it's not so bulky. I'm going to pivot, turn up. Remember, no tents. If you get a tent looking thing, it's going to go the wrong way. Your folds won't be parallel and it won't be what you need. So if that happens, just back up and fix it. There you go. And you see the paper gets sort of unwieldy. The layers are starting to want to come apart. So sometimes I just force them back into a better layer. Try to hang on to everything as you're doing this. And you go right down the whole strip of paper. Try to make sure that this edge, this set of creases here, is staying more or less perpendicular to this edge. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want it to get too far off. And then you're going to end up with a little extra bunch of paper that isn't going to make a whole square. Just fold it up. No worries. See how far off that got. But you'll find out that isn't really going to matter. So unfold the whole thing, and you can see now I've got a whole set of parallel creases all the way down this strip, even to right here. And it wants to twist. Paper has memory, so once you give it a twist like that, it remembers what you did, and it wants to go back to that shape, so it cooks it a little bit flat. And when you unfold this whole strip back into the square, I'm showing you the white side because I think it's a little easier to see, but you can see it on either side. You have a whole sheet of paper with V's across it. V's. And then some vertical folds. It looks like a lot to deal with, but it will be fine. So you can see the V's here. You can also see that these stand up as mountains, and in between there are valleys. There are mountain V's and valley V's. So that's our goal for the next bit of work we're going to do. So I'm going to start from the edge along here that has a full V along it. Remember when we got to the end of our little folding, we had some sort of little partial V's down here that are small? I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start here at the end with the full V's. And also notice that there's a valley fold here and a mountain fold there. So the main project for this model is that we're going to be reversing some of our folds. They're not all going in the right direction because we want to start with the whole ridge of mountain folds along here. So what we're going to do is we're going to press down here. Let's see, that's a mountain. But notice that the dynamics are, the mechanics, is when I press down, I can get this fold to reverse pretty easily. No need to get in there and pinch and be particular. You don't need to do that. You just need to press here and let it refold itself right along that crease but now it's a mountain fold. Now the other thing is, when I do that, what's going to happen to this long vertical crease? It can't stay as the valley fold. It started as a valley, but we're going to have to reverse it. So again, if you take the paper that was here and you just take your fingers and just reverse it, it behaves very well for you. So now I can take this. I have my mountain V. There's a valley in between, and I'm going to give it an extra crease. There we go. What's going to happen in between now? Because there's a mountain here and a mountain there, and we always want mountain, valley, mountain, valley. We want them to stay opposite. So I'm going to reverse that whole next crease. Now I've got mountain, valley. And we know that this is going to become a mountain just like the first one did. So I'm going to press right here on this valley. We've already got a mountain here. I'm going to press down, and almost like magic, that reverses itself. And then we're going to take the paper and just give it a little stretch. And this valley is going to turn into a mountain. So now we have two V's. Really nice. Okay, we got mountain here. We need to have valley there. So let's reverse that. And now we do the same thing. If you put your hand right under the V part of this, it's going to help you. When you press down on this valley and you put your finger underneath, it's going to help it reverse. You learn all these little techniques as you go. So don't be discouraged if it doesn't turn out to be quite as easy the first time you try it. Now we're going to make that a valley because we just did a mountain, mountain, valley. And then we do the final V. And we're going to just pop that into a mountain. Make sure our V stays folded here. And we've got our same nice strip of paper that's all compressed into 1/8 of the width that we started with. But now we've got some V's in it. So those look nice. So all we have to do is do that same process for this whole sheet. You might be saying, really? That looks like a lot of work. But it's a little bit of work, and it can be very relaxing and almost meditative if you allow yourself to get into the process. So what I like to do is I like to turn my paper over for the second set of chevrons or V's, because then I can always be making my row mountains, because I just turned these mountains into valleys, didn't I? So now I'm going to make these into mountains. It makes it easier, I find, because you're always doing the mountain kind of process, and you don't have to, your mind doesn't have to turn around if your paper turns over. So I'm going to press. I'm going to start all over. I'm going to press down and make a V there, and of course this has to turn into a mountain. You're not going to be able to press the whole row down until you get all the way across your paper. So now you're going to have to be a little bit patient. So we have a mountain. We're going to turn this next long crease into a valley just up to the top of our next chevron, or V. Gets a little bit tricky for the second row. But again, I'm going to press my finger underneath where I want that V to end up down here. And notice that, for instance here, mountain, mountain, a mountain has to come off of those two mountains that make the V. So here's my next one, V. I have to have a mountain coming off of it. Okay. And I have to have a valley right here. Okay. Now I've got another V coming out of here, so I'm going to pop this up. Pop up this whole long crease into a mountain. And notice I'm being kind of gentle holding this because I haven't finished yet and I don't want to crunch the paper too much. So I've got a mountain. Now I need a valley. And one of the things when you make your creases really crisp is they're much more willing to go back and forth between mountain and valley. So I'm going to have a mountain V here. I need a mountain coming off of there. And now I've got 2 rows done. So before I turn it over, ask yourself, what's going to happen when I turn it over to all of these valleys and mountains? They're going to reverse, right? What's a valley on this side is a mountain on the other side. So let me turn it over and see if that's true. Oh, yep. Get back to our mountains for our first row, valleys for our second row, mountains for our third row. I think you could agree this looks pretty neat, pretty regular, even though, as I pointed out when I was folding the strip, that the layers got a little bit off with each other, but that's not something you're going to see with this. The second thing is it still folds. I could still fold it down into 1/8 of its width, even though I've got a lot of chevrons folded, V's folded into this paper. So it's very compressible, it takes up very little space, but it makes for a very strong, this is just a very strong sort of surface. It's a very thin kind of paper intended for paper folding because it's nice to have thinner paper. But I'm going to show you that if I set my cell phone on here, it holds my cell phone, doesn't collapse the paper. And if I used slightly heavier paper, I'd probably be able to set a coffee cup on it. So it's a little bit like corrugated cardboard. It's very, very structural. This little denotation with a dot and a line and a dot and a line in origami means mountain fold. No. Just the dashed line means valley folded. So I've marked on this sheet of paper which way all the folds go. And you could notice that when there's a V, a valley V here, a valley has to come off of that. In the next row, it's a mountain V, and a mountain comes off of it. Then a valley. So it makes like a Y, actually. A valley Y, a mountain Y, a valley Y, etc. And that goes on for the whole sheet of paper.